This weekend, a small group visited the island of St. Lucia. We went to see the Owen King EU Hospital. The group consisted of myself, a representative from INSO, a representative from Royal Haskoning, a representative from St. Martin Medical Center, and from KPMG. The purpose of the visit was to visit a hospital that was built by the company INSO. This is a hospital that was funded by the European Union. Sadly, the hospital was completed about 2 years ago. It has all of its medical equipment in place, but still not being used. But I will come back to that. So the purpose of the visit is that we are in the middle of the design process for the new St. Martin General Hospital, and we thought it would be prudent to visit a hospital that was built by INSO so that we could see what lessons could be learned, if there were any questions that could be incorporated in our current design process. During the visit, we met with the Minister of Health and Wellness, Minister Mary Isaac. She joined us for the tour, and we had an opportunity to discuss many possible areas of cooperation, and also to discuss, what's happened with the hospital and why the hospital has not been in use. And what it really boils down to is financial resources in order to make the hospital operational, as well as training. Much of the equipment I saw was from Siemens. It was high-tech equipment, and I think that there's a training gap in the skills of the personnel in terms of how to use the equipment. And so for a couple of reasons, the hospital, while fully complete, remains non-operational. And I think that besides the lessons we've learned in terms of the design of the hospital to make sure that what was done well, we can incorporate it in the design of the new general hospital, and as well as what mistakes were made that we can learn from those lessons and make sure that we don't make the same. But for me, one of the big takeaways has been the hospital is just a building. If we don't ensure that our staff are up to speed, that we have proper protocols, proper procedures in place, in the end, it is just a building. And as St. Lucia has seen, it is an empty building that is not servicing the needs of the population. So it again reinforces the point that we need to make sure that while we're in a construction process of a new general hospital, that we need to make sure that the entire healthcare chain, the entire healthcare system, training, etc., is all up to speed to make sure that when we do have a new general hospital, it delivers what the population needs.
I just have a few remarks to make, and it's mostly based on press reports of one or two incidents that took place or are taking place right now. The first one has to do with the attorneys that are striking. These attorneys are striking because, according to them, they were not paid for the services that were rendered, and that after meeting with me earlier or last month to discuss the situation, the matters were still not resolved. I think their action is unfortunate. Not only unfortunate, I think it is very irresponsible. And why? While I underscore that anyone, be it a worker or an independent contractor, who work must be paid for their services, and stand by that belief, the process is not quite as it is being portrayed. For a number of years now, we have learned that via press reports, these attorneys have been having problems receiving their monies and receiving them in time. And mostly it is receiving them in time. And we fully understand that a lot of these attorneys are attorneys of some of them of the smaller offices, so cannot really afford to have any amount of monies outstanding for 2, 3, or even 4 months. After the incident last month where they threatened that they would strike, I called them in for a meeting. We had what I believe to be, and which they themselves confirmed was a very productive meeting. I asked them, let us not dwell in the past. I understand the situation. Let us move forward. And during the presentation in Parliament of the year plans, that is why we chose the motto, the quote, impetus, moving forward. Keep moving, not looking back and being stagnated about the things that happened to us. Let us learn from the bad experiences, but let us fix them and move on so that we can do what we have to do. So I assured them that I would make sure that all payments would be made after having consulted with my colleague, Minister Gibson of the Finance Department. And not only that, that we would also look into the process to facilitate the process, to make the process easier so that the payments will not get caught up in the bureaucracy. And we moved on. And I thought everything was okay, everything was going good, until the Thursday before Good Friday. My office received a call from one of the attorneys stating that they will be striking on Monday, which by the way was Easter Monday, because they did not receive any payments. We immediately went to check to see what happened, because I knew that all of the payments had been signed off, not just signed off by us, but we made sure at the finance department that they were received and that they would be processed. The reports, this was told to the attorney, and the response was, well, that is you guys' problem, because I don't have it on my account, so I'm striking, or we are striking on Monday. We continued to check to see what the situation was. We got confirmation from the finance department that it was paid. We again approached the attorneys and told them that, again, all of our information points out that these bills were paid. I don't have it on my account. When I get it on my account, then I would work, etc. So we went into the Easter holidays with that situation. I was very disappointed and called the attorney and let him know that. The response was that I sounded angry, which I was, and I admit that I was. But he's the one who have reasons to be angry because they didn't get their money, etc., etc. And later, that same attorney sent me a message and stated, I received my February and March payment, but I haven't received my December and January payment. Now, mind you, we're in April. Okay? The problem was that you have been receiving your payments 4 months and more later. And in April, you confirmed that you received your March payment. Okay? That already is an indication that we did what we said we were going to do to make sure that these things were processed. If somewhere in the mix, a much older bill apparently was not paid, then you pick up the phone, you call us, because you saw that we live up to what we were saying, because your February and March payment was already had. And I'm sure there are folks who send in their bills for March and didn't receive payment yet. They received their payments. We don't owe them as far as the thing. So it was just a matter to check out to see what happened with the December and the January payment. The lawyers insisted that until that money is on their account, they are not going to render the services, and thus will remain on strike. Why do I say it is irresponsible? Because I believe, one, we have shown that we are making and have made the necessary arrangements to pay the monies that are owed, and really thought that we were up to date with it. But the services that these attorneys render in the penal code system, in execution of the penal code, is not somebody want to go to courts to have a row with their neighbor and decide that they need a lawyer. These would be that, for instance, the police apprehend someone, they're going to be questioned, etc. They have a right to an attorney, and they may not be able to afford one, and one is assigned. And there is a schedule that is made up for the attorneys who, by the way, voluntarily, no attorney is forced to take on this assignment, okay? Voluntarily subscribe that they would do this work, and you deliberately refuse then to assist in these cases because you did not get your money, etc. What then happens to those folks? How are they going to be represented? So we have a clash here between, indeed, you did your work, you want your money, but the one who's paying you is not the one who is dependent on that service. The service, we are paying you to render service to someone who cannot pay themselves to get that service. So you are not hurting me or the government. Yes, it's our responsibility, but you're directly hurting that person who at that particular moment needs your services. And if we were in a dispute, by which there's a dispute about the bill, or we're telling you that we don't have money, etc., I can understand that. But you yourself have confirmed that the monies up to the last month that you have submitted was paid and paid in time. It is my responsibility as Minister of Justice to look and make sure that those folks who are to be served by this service, that they have that service, they get that service. And any attorney who is admitted to the bar, if willing, would be able to provide that service. So I'm busy holding meetings with different law offices, etc., to make sure that in the future we are not held hostage by folks who claim that they want the best interests of their clients. Because again, let's look at this conflict here. We are taken to courts, we were taken to courts because the rights of the inmates were being violated. They didn't have a washing machine, for instance. We were taken to courts for that. But the same people who took us to courts are now refusing to give service to those same inmates where they need it most. Representation in courts in their case. Talking about hypocrisy, and yes, I did say hypocrisy, because I'm emotional about this and I move about this, because we cannot on one hand pretend that we are the Lord protectors of the oppressed, but on the other side, if we get $5 less on our pay, then we stop the services to those same oppressed that we said that we are going to serve. And excuse me for being a bit emotional, but it is a situation that would make one wonder. So, as I said, I'm busy looking at alternatives to make sure that this does not happen in the future, because I don't think no one should be held hostage because someone feel that they have a unique position, and if you don't pay me, then I will hurt John. If I don't pay you, hurt me. Don't hurt John. Take me to courts, fight for your pay, something like that. Do not hurt a vulnerable person who's dependent on your service. I don't see how you consider yourself a hero by doing that. The other point is, over the weekend there was a situation at the prison, and it was an unfortunate situation, but it is not like how it was reported in the media. It was not so that guards did not show up to work or walk out from their work or anything like that. And at no time was the situation endangered, in the sense that the inmates for a number of hours encountered some discomfort because the services that they had to get, they were not able to get. And what happened exactly? The shift that had to work that day, on that shift, I think 1 or 2 people reported sick. Now, again, they're talking about being responsible. And we have on several occasions underscored the importance and the situation up there at the prison, and totally sympathize with the workers who have to be working long hours still while we are putting a solution in place. But I don't know if the fact that it's Carnival has anything to do with it, but I understood from some other departments that their report of workers being sick have increased a bit. So I don't know if it was because of the situation at the prison that people got sick, or because it is Carnival. Nevertheless, they did not come to work, and the remainder of the shift, it was not considered responsible at the time, certain tasks that they had to do to be able to do until we got reinforcement for them. When informed of the situation, everything was put into place, and we corrected the situation. We got enough workers to come out, for whom I definitely want to thank. I also want to thank the shop steward who was on duty, shop steward from the union who was on duty that day. After speaking to her, it was not an action. People decided that with the amount of workers that was there, it would not have been safe or responsible to do certain duties. I agree with them to the extent. The directors are investigating the situation to see exactly what happened, who did not show up to work, who left work, etc., etc. As soon as I have a report on that, we would see if it is necessary to follow up on that situation. In the meantime, we have had with the consent of the Prime Minister, we have had very productive talks with the VKS, so we would be able to boost the staffing until we have a more permanent situation. So there was no crisis situation. There was a few hours of discomfort, and management and myself apologize to the inmates for this, and we'll do everything in our power to make sure that it doesn't happen again. Thank you.
It's a pleasure for me to be here this morning to update you on the activities within the ministry, and to give an overview of where we're at and what we're about to do. First, I'd like to commend the public education schools, even though they're on vacation, that they have been preparing for the Youth Extravaganza show, and they were the ones charged with the opening of the show. The Prince William Alexander School, specifically student Jaim Gums, opened with the St. Martin song, and the public school heritage drummers did a tremendous job on the djembe drums, which was conducted by public ed music teacher Mr. Everard Blackman. Then followed the melodious sound of our steel orchestra, and as you know, I'm very much promoting our culture in St. Martin, and we have been busy for a while with Pans in the Classroom, and we saw the fruits of that when they went into Full Extreme, a very popular song, even though I must say it was quite empty at that time because the show started quite early at 6:30. That music was arranged by also Mr. Everard and conducted by music teacher Rosemary Marsham Hodge. I'd like to thank them for all the extra work they put in with our students who came from 3 of the public schools, the Dr. Martin Luther King, Prince William Alexander, and I believe the Leonard Connor School. They can correct me if I'm wrong, because that part I'm sucking out of my head, but Ruby La Vega School also took part with 2 singers. So I'm very happy that this event has been planned for young people to portray their talents in a positive and very forthcoming manner, including portraying our culture. I would also like to, from public education, inform the general public that the move to the Leonard Connor School has been finalized, and the student staff are fully situated back at the school. I haven't been able to make a walkthrough since they are back, but that will be my priority once school reopens in May. In sports, on Sunday last, April 23rd, a group consisting of 7 athletes and 7 delegation members left for Cuba to attend the St. Martin Promising Athletes SPA training camp. The delegation is expected to be in Cuba from April 23rd to May 3rd, 2017. The top sport athletes traveling or who traveled for this special training camp are in judo, Mr. I. Bell, M. Bell, K. Olivachi, and M. Bell. In athletics, Mr. N. Milton. In cycling, Chittick, W. Chittick, and in aquatics, A. Thomas. These young athletes, it's not a large delegation because they really chose some of the top athletes who have a strong opportunity to progress. They are visiting the same Olympic training center in Cuba, which I visited on my trip when I was there a few weeks ago. And while we were misinformed at the time that they would be traveling in July, they are actually going there, or are there now, currently undergoing training with Cuban national coaches, with high performance training in mind. This is in collaboration with the St. Martin Sports and Olympic Federation. So it's a collaboration between us and them in promoting these youngsters to prepare for the Barranquilla Games of 2018. This trip is one of many planned training camps which aims to enhance the athletes or the abilities of our athletes. The SMSOF is expected to continue with other travels this year to Colorado Springs in July, as well as to continue as they did last year to the Dominican Republic with a larger group of athletes in the areas of baseball, basketball, volleyball, and the teams in swimming and athletics as well, to further develop them and to prepare them with professional coaches. The ministry commends this effort of the Federation to further develop our athletes and will continue to support them in this preparation phase as much as we can. Under youth, I'm pleased to inform you that the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport is presently conducting a research on the topic Pedagogical Climate in St. Martin. It is so timely. The ministry is developing this information to promote policies that will educate young adults, parents, and guardians on the influences and the long-term benefits of adopting healthy and nurturing strategies at home and by extension the community. You'll soon realize why I say it is timely. The objective of the research is to understand how child rearing and disciplinary practices on St. Martin affect the social and emotional development of children ages 3 through 12 years. This information might also, by extension, create policies or improve on policies that will improve the nurturing environment between students, parents, and teachers within elementary schools. To obtain more insight on this topic, the cooperation of parents and guardians is important. And the young intern, Helene, who has been at the department and is on her way out, has made a survey available online. She also went and met with several stakeholders in our schools, the Student Support Services Division within our ministry, the Inspectorate, Ministry of VSA, Ministry of Justice as well, representatives also work together on this research, as these three entities where youth are concerned are working together to put together the integrated youth policy or to update it. Only a small number of the surveys were received from the schools. So the young lady in question who's conducting the research went to several schools where the surveys were given out to parents. Only a small amount was returned. So it is imperative for us to get a broader view. She does have preliminary results, but I believe that she needs a wider response in order for the results to reflect the true sentiments of our situation here on St. Martin as it regards to child rearing and disciplinary practices. So I'm encouraging parents of interest. We've also disseminated it to the civil servants within government. So I encourage the civil servants to check that mail, click on that link, and take the 5 to 10 minutes it would take to fill out that survey. But also to the general public. It is available on government's website and Facebook page of government. We have asked them to reboot it to be current so that it is available today, up on top. You don't have to go look for it. But I think it's important that parents voice their anonymous opinions. You do not have to fill out your names or anything like that in matters relating to this topic so that we can get an insight as to the real situation. As we are currently dealing as a community with several issues related to the youth, and we believe that parental involvement in this process is also very, very important. On to the next topic, the Youth Extravaganza. The Youth Extravaganza is an event that I have supported wholeheartedly over the years. Going back to when I was a teacher, several of our students took part in these and other youth talent shows or competitions. In all of these, there is always a screening process. There is always a process to ensure that the content, the material, and the actions are positive and uplifting to the community. As such, I have choreographed and directed dances for several youth groups, including one in which my own daughter, 10 years ago, participated in that same carnival village. So it was with quite disappointment and dismay that once again, because we've been seeing this trend over the past few years, including when a group that was invited or scheduled to perform was known for its portrayals of negativity involved in the gangster life of guns, violence, and the objectification of females. Lo and behold, we know the reality here on St. Martin is that also our artists are sucked into that type of lifestyle. It is popular. And this is where, again, it is important that information be disseminated, not just to the parents, but also to the students and the young people themselves and to the community at large.